Hi, I'm Fred Huey, host of the Backroads and Byways podcast, a podcast series dedicated to highlighting the individuals, attractions, and events that make the Midwest special. Today, I have as my guest the Executive Director of Visit Nebraska, John Ricks. John, welcome.
Thank you, Fred. It's wonderful to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Oh, definitely. And John, I've known you for a while, but I guess thinking about, I don't really know you. So why don't you give our listeners a little bit of your background, how you came to be in Nebraska?
Wow. That's, well, first of all, I'm an Army brat, and I was born in the Philippines, so I'm not from Nebraska, and lived in a number of different places, and you don't know, well, it was fun because I followed my dad. He was an Army colonel. We went wherever, in Hawaii, Japan, Okinawa. I graduated from high school on Okinawa. And so I always kind of traveled just because I had to, to keep up with the family. So it wasn't too strange when I started going to college, where I was not really a great student, to get into marketing, advertising, and things. So went to University of Wisconsin-Madison, majored in radio, TV, film, and journalism, and somewhere along in there ran out of grade point, so I transferred to University of Wisconsin-Whitewater, where my dad was actually teaching after he got out of college, after he got out of the Army, and enjoyed it. So many years ago, I joined an ad agency in Milwaukee, has now offices in Chicago, and we pitched and won the Wisconsin tourism account. And I can give you an idea of how long ago that was. It was in the mid-'80s. And
Okay.
the fun part about it is that, yeah, some states had understood that tourism could be marketed, but not all of them. So way back then, Wisconsin's budget was peanuts, and a new incoming governor had promised to put $5 million toward it because he was from the Wisconsin Dells area, which is, as you know, a real big
He
attraction.
understood tourism.
Yeah. And it started there. So I worked on, really from the ad agency side, about 30 years there, a little less than 30 years, and worked on Wisconsin tourism and Wyoming tourism. And then I went in the Colorado tourism office in 2011, 2010, somewhere in there. And how'd I get here? When you're in the business working with states and things, that's where I've worked mostly at the state level, you get to know a lot of the tourism directors, you kind of know how the game's played and things. So when this position came open back in 2017, I thought, hey, why not? Let's do it. And fortunate enough to get the position, and I've been here ever since, and it's really been fun.
Okay, two questions.
Okay.
One, Okinawa. Is that Kubasaki High by chance? Is that where you graduated from high school?
Did you?
Or was it?
Did you?
No, actually, I had a good friend that went to Kubasaki
Really?
High. So
Yeah.
one of our classmates, he got transferred.
Oh.
His dad is senior year, and so I got a graduation
See, that was my
announcement
big
from
thing, because
Kubasaki High.
I always like saying Kubasaki High because everybody says, where in the hell is that? So, yeah, I actually graduated from Kubasaki
Well, if you ever throw
High
that
School.
out as a trivia question, I will get it. So,
Oh, well, we're not playing that game.
okay, good. The second question that pops in my mind, had you been to Nebraska before you applied for the job?
Through,
Like,
many millions of people still tell us that, they have come through Nebraska. Jokingly, I have a friend who lives in Colorado, and he was working with us on something, and we got him off Highway 80. And he still to this day will tell you, and he's exaggerating a little bit, the biggest injustice ever done to Nebraska was putting that Highway 80 at the flattest part to go right through, because that's the perception people get, that it's flat. And he's been back many times, and he has discovered other things. So he's kind of my prime example of people thinking that way and then taking a little time to learn about the place, and now he's a huge fan.
I would say one of your challenges has been to kind of get away from that thought process of Nebraska being a drive-through or a flyover state.
Yeah.
And I believe at my first tourism conference when we first met back in 2017, I think Nebraska was like 49th in the country.
Oh, no.
As far as a possible destination?
50th.
Okay.
And I think
I was trying to boost us up a little bit.
And everybody should understand it's not a bad thing when you come in as a marketing guy, because that's really what I am. We did a lot of research, and there's a lot of secondary research around, and this study is called Portrait of American Travelers. It has been around for a very, very long time. I think it's in its 32nd or 33rd year now. And they have for years asked the very easy question. Where do you plan on going and visiting? How likely are you to visit the following a state in the next whatever? And they answer through. And yeah, Nebraska for a long while was, quote, the least likely state for people to visit. And it wasn't for a decade. It was for longer than that.
Which surprises me when you think of North Dakota. And I apologize to any of my North Dakota friends.
Oh yeah, no. It's all okay. I mean, it's when you come into a situation like this, you have to find out what the problems are. Marketing is really problem solving, and we found that out. And what we really did then was thought, why? What are the barriers? So we went out and asked people. And we went to Minneapolis, Chicago, Kansas City, Denver. Can't remember. That's about it. Oh, maybe one other place I can't remember. And the perceptions, today I think we can call them misperceptions, that people had. And we talked about this before. Flat and boring, nothing to do. Flyover country, and all these things. And when we talked about that with people in state, they said, well, no, those are misperceptions. And I said, no, those are people's real perceptions. So that's the challenge. We knew early on here, for example, working on Colorado was fun, but it's pretty easy because, in the wintertime, all you say is snow and people flock to Colorado. It's, it's a pretty straight line. But here the challenge was because of these perceptions or misperceptions or however you want to barriers, let's use that word, we knew we had to change perceptions. And that's just not inviting people. That's doing something more. We had to get them here and show them and prove it. So it was, of the 4 or 5 states I've worked on, it's been the biggest challenge because those perceptions were embedded, and we had to change them. We did.
I think one of the issues of Nebraskans that a lot of us don't appreciate the state ourselves. I mean, years ago, we had a family event at Fort Robinson. Yeah. So I bring pictures back. People are like, you went to Colorado? No, this is Northwest Nebraska. And they had no idea because I think a lot of Nebraskans drive across the state, see the flat and boring, and don't understand what this state has to offer.
I mean, like I said before, I've lived all over the place. I've been to 50 different countries. And this isn't something I knew I kind of started understanding it, that when I'm not, people ask me, where are you from? I go, well, you pick anywhere or nowhere. My parents were from Wisconsin. I lived there for a number of years, but not growing up. My first 17 years of life were really elsewhere. Excuse me. And what you realize when I started working in tourism is that I could be objective. I could walk into a place. See, I think every place has something cool. No matter what, you give me a state. There are places I would, I'm not going to bend over backwards to going to, but if you really dug in, every state has something cool to see and do, period. And walking in that way, I can be objective and look at things. And I do get some of the drift you were talking about, that some Nebraskans don't appreciate what you really have here. And I think that's true. I mean, look at when I've been here 8 years now, and you can talk to people from, I call it the East Coast and the West Coast, all right? And some people it's surprising to me the number of people on the East Coast over in the populated areas who haven't been over to the West Coast. I'm not going to say not at all, but not frequently. And so that's a little surprising. But I think that over the past years now, as the industry has grown, what happens then is the industry comes alive and it becomes energized, and they see the growth and they see the dollars, and they see how if they showcase their community properly, people will come, spend money. It raises the pride, increases the pride in the community, the quality of life, and all those other things. So that's kind of what's happening. And it's good. Takes a while. Because remember, we were down at the 50th place here.
What are we now? I know we've advanced.
Yeah, I mean, they changed that survey a little bit. They used to do it once a year. They do it 4 times a year. So we watch summer, because that's the biggest, in our budget, that's really all we can do is push a big summer season. We were 42nd. We've been as high as 42nd.
Great.
And we'll fluctuate 42nd to 44th now. Now, is that important? Yeah, because it's we're on more people's shopping lists. How's that?
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Complete sense.
Yeah.
I mean, at least we're not 50th. And talking about internally, I think my experience has been that people forget the jewels in their own backyards.
Oh.
And that's one of the purposes of this podcast.
Yeah.
And speaking of discovering jewels in our own backyards, it's let's talk about Nebraska Passport. This little
we can talk about a couple. This is fun this year. This is National Travel Tourism Week, and we kicked it off in Norfolk on Saturday. And all my friends in Norfolk, I said Norfolk, and visited the Johnny Carson place in the marketplace. It was the kickoff, also the kickoff of their farmers market for spring, and we kicked off the passport program. As I said, I've been around for a while, and I've seen many, many, many passport programs, and they used to be a novelty. Convention and visitor bureaus or states would mostly convention and visitor do them for 1 or 2 years, and then they'd abandon them. This is in its 16th year. This is the largest, most successful passport program, I think, in existence. When you have 1,000 people visit all 70 stops, that's what we had last year. We're up in that area constantly.
That is amazing.
Yeah. We print 50,000 books, and they're gone. Madison Johnson on our staff, I think from last year she has 2, and she needs to keep those for archive and stuff. But we have, it kicked off May 1st, and one of the stops reported there's a Passport Pals Facebook page now, very active. The program is loved. And the stop, and I think Wahoo put out the next day that about the first 2 hours that the passport was, quote, on your mark, get set, go on May 1st, they had almost 100 people in.
Now, besides these printed books, there is an app as well?
There is also an app, yep. Each place is geocached, geo-fenced, so you can go in and you can get the stamp or get your book stamped, physically. There's been discussion for a long time about, this is not inexpensive to produce, but I think right now that there's so many people want to go in and have the book stamped, because the purpose of the whole thing is to get the people to go into one of these little hidden gems that you talked about, whether it's a store, a museum, a brewery, a winery, whatever. It's to go in and people really, really, really enjoy it. Which
I think that's possibly one of the downsides of the app, that you can get a virtual stamp after hours if the business is not open?
Yeah, and we talk about that a lot. And Madison talks to people out in the field about it, and it's like, yeah, it's convenient. Sometimes there's 70 stops, and this is a big state. And if you plan to trip out and got there late in the day or something happened and that stop isn't open, you can still, hit the app and get your stamp. But I can pretty confidently say that people really want to go in, meet the people, get the stamp, and if it's a retail or a commercial operation, buy something. We've had stops before tell us that they'll generate 50-60% of their revenue from the passport program from May to September, and that's tremendous. And I can remember when I started back in 2017, people used to say, "Okay, we got to get these stops on," and we do an educational thing with them. Expect a couple hundred people, and that number has now grown to over 3,000 people per stop. Some get more than that. And what's happening now is communities realize if they get a passport stop in their community, that's an opportunity to take thousands of people coming into the community and cross-sell everything in the community. So it's not just one passport stop, it's a community stop now.
So these are still available in your office?
They are still available in our office. The easiest way really is to go to NebraskaPassport.com and see where the stops are, because each stop has a supply of these. We print 50,000 of them, and it's early May yet. They'll be gone pretty quickly from our office. We keep a little supply, but most of them are out in the field at the 70 stops. So you're going to be kind of near you're going to be near a stop somewhere to get one.
Okay, so NebraskaPassport.com.
Yep.
You can request it,
Yep.
see your nearest stop.
Yep.
You can request them online or
You can
visit
request
the
them online.
local attraction.
Yep.
And pick one up.
And it's and the real fun of it now is the Facebook pages I think only started last year, and get on that, be a passport pal, and watch because people just have a ball.
Was that started by participants or your office?
Yes.
A partnership here.
I think it was started by office, but it caught on like wildfire.
Great. So, great chance to learn more about Nebraska.
Yep.
And Nebraska Passport Program changes every year, and you're right, it's a very, very interesting and successful program. So let's segue a little bit to the Nebraska Visitor's Guide, which we both happen to have a handy copy of, and so that's available.
That's available you can order one online. We have them at our office. They are also across the state and in a few different states, because even in this digital age, there's something about having a guide and looking at a map and being able to flip back and forth. There's something about the tactile nature of this. You can flip back in pages and things and it's real popular. Over 200,000 of those a year go out. And like I said before, more people are shopping Nebraska. We measure that one of the ways we measure that is just simple traffic to visit Nebraska.com. I was talking back in 2017, that was around 360,000. We went over 1.2 million last year, and hopefully, if there's any wood around here, this is real wood, knock on wood, we'll go above that. So that as more people shop, get on people's shopping list, as more people shop, see what there is to do, and we invite them. That's what marketing really is inviting people to come. More people will come.
I think it's been extremely successful, and I, like most people, I like having paper. You can make notes easier. Fortunately or unfortunately, there are places in Nebraska where the cell service is not the world's best, and so by having this on hand, you're not going to lose what you're trying to find. And again, it's a very, very beautiful state. So any surprises in your 8 years of being Director of Tourism for Nebraska?
daily. There's always something new. That's why, as you look back on a career, there are no 2 days alike. You have your little check things to do list, and if you get to the end of your things to do list, that's an unusual day. I think the rapid growth of the industry over the past 8 years. What we did this year, it's about a 4.6 or 4.7 billion with a B dollar industry. When I started, 8 years ago, it was about 3.5 billion, and we even from 2019 to now, it's grown almost 30%. And remember, that was with that pandemic year in there where the industry lost 40% of visitor spending. So that's a big surprise how rapid the growth has been. And that's kind of, we're waking a sleeping giant, because there's more people coming. There's more people in the industry who are really wanting to be in the industry now and getting more active in it. And then people come and they spend, and a lot of more people are coming here.
You referenced Nebraska or National Travel and Tourism Week, and I think that's where a lot of people don't realize. I mean, it's the first full week in May, I think this year, May 4th through the 10th.
Yep.
And it's a celebration of the tourism industry across the country. In Nebraska, tourism is the third largest industry. And you've talked about the economic impact, and I know looking at the number of jobs created and sales tax dollars, revenue generated.
It's big business. And I think what we're learning now, and we've been working with Casey Bayless over in economic development, because interestingly, South Dakota did a piece of research, because everybody's looking for recruiting new people to the state, jobs, new businesses into the state and everything. And what they did is they surveyed, and they found out that almost 70% of the people who'd moved there were tourists first, were visitors first. So that's kind of why we changed our name and our logo to Visit Nebraska, because really, truly, if we can get people here, there are so many fun things to see and do, so many great people to welcome, and our industry does a really good job of that. Our job is to get the people here. The industry's job is to show them a good time, provide a great experience, whatever it is, because if they get that good experience, they'll have a good time, B, they'll spend some money, and they'll maybe say, whoa, we didn't know this, and maybe come and look for a job or move their business here. So this is something fairly new between, the economic development departments across the country and tourism departments, is this integration. So we're trying to now figure out how we knit these two things together.
Yeah, I think that's, I always tell the story of a nurse at my doctor's office. She always called herself a CWS refugee. Actually, originally from Louisiana, LSU fans. They came up for the College World Series. Her husband says, hey, I kind of like this place. And her being a nurse can pretty much find a career job anywhere. And so they moved up here.
Yep.
And loves it. They tell me it's less humid than Louisiana, surprisingly, when people talk about Nebraska's weather. But, I think, anyone, if you're contemplating a career move, you do want to go check out the place ahead of time. And the tourism industry is that first line of workforce development, business recruiting that I'm glad to see the industry moving towards more of a partnership that way nationally.
Yep. It simply makes sense, I just met a woman yesterday. I was out in Kearney Travel Tourism Week, and I met a woman who came here 10 years ago from Cleveland and hadn't gone back yet. She just moved, So everybody has stories like that, and I think the more of those kinds of stories we can identify and talk about, just like Nebraska, more people coming and shopping Nebraska for a vacation, more of those stories we can get out there, the more people who will come and just actually move here.
Well, I think also in this day and age where you can almost work from anywhere. I mean,
sure.
If you've got the data capability, and I think you're going to see more and more people looking for more wide open spaces, and Nebraska's got plenty of spaces, which is a positive.
Yep. I mean, the pandemic was horrible. It was a horrible, horrible thing. And I guess I always believe there's a silver lining everywhere. And what happened there was that took us all back to looking at things that really matter and the simplicity of it all and how you can live a simple life and connect with people because you couldn't connect with them during the pandemic. And those key things, and what evolved out of that, and Forbes did an article about it a number of years ago and talked to me about it, and they said, well, what we're finding in our trends is people want to go to places they haven't been before, less populated, affordable, new experiences. And I said, oh yeah, I agree with all that, and I can just put Nebraska next to your description and get people coming here. But that's what the trends are. People are we have the first quiet trail up at the Niobrara Scenic River. That's the only second one in the world. And there are reasons for that. Astrotourism, Merritt Reservoir with our dark skies, and there's dark skies all over this state. Bright lights, big cities, fine, but there's a whole lot of people who would just like to go out, wide open spaces, and just be. And this is a perfect place to do that.
I think unless you get away from the big city, you don't realize what a dark sky is.
Oh.
I mean, it's...
at our conference this year, we had the people from Atlas Obscura. It's a website, very interesting website, and they've founded in 2009. One of their founders was here, and it very much parallels what I think Nebraska offers people. And what they do is they identify the out-of-the-way little gems or the little unique things. And what he told our audience at the conference, and I thought it was great, I can't remember where it was in South America, but he showed this beautiful picture of this waterfall. It was not a little waterfall. It was a hundreds of feet high waterfall. And the little village down at the bottom of it, and he said you could go there, and the people who lived there never really paid much attention to the waterfall because it's always been there. So, when I go out west, we were to a ranch a few years ago, and, you walk outside at night, and most of us just look up. Of course, the people who've lived their whole life, that's what they've been in their whole lives. But my first dark sky experience was when I traveled to Mongolia years ago in the Gobi Desert, and we spent 3 hours at night looking through a telescope. They brought some three female astrophysicists from Ulaanbaatar, which is the capital, and we spent all night looking at the stars. And it's really good for your mind and your well-being because it makes you feel about this big, and it's just wonderful.
You understand how insignificant we all are.
You are a grain of sand.
I'd heard the term light pollution, and again, you don't realize it until you get it out.
Yep.
And
those kinds of things are, I hate the word trending, but that's what's happening. There are more people looking for those kinds of experiences where they can go to a place that they haven't been before, and they take the time to, I call it peel back the onion. They just don't look at the surface. They go in and they discover the red clouds and the Valentines and the Shadrons and the everywhere else in between. And even Omaha with Omaha, our population centers, our cities, if you will, to a New Yorker, Omaha wouldn't be a city. But when they come here and they realize, hey, it's accessible, you can get a reservation at a restaurant, within the next week rather than, and those kinds of things, those are the kinds of accommodating things with the friendly people who live here. And I wanted to mention that too, because in the Army brats, we really have no roots. It's good and it's bad. We don't have to talk about the bad. But the interesting thing is when I came here, one of the most striking things, and I've heard it said before about other places, it's the people that make it. the biggest thing here that's made the impression on me is the community. I know people who still have dinner twice a week with their parents or their family or something. I don't even know what a high school reunion is. I mean, I know what it is, but
Be awful tough to get back to Kubasaki.
Yeah, we're not going to get a whole lot of people from Kubasaki High School coming over tomorrow, But that is really interesting. So that builds confidence and should build confidence of everybody in our industry, because it's called the hospitality industry for a reason. And when you come here, there's a lot of training that goes on, and the people you meet to guide you and help you through your experience, whether it's at a restaurant, a museum, or whatever, they know their role in showing you a good time and helping you and guiding you. And that's really a uniqueness of here, I think.
Well, the Omaha and Council Bluffs actually partner in the Omaha Metropolitan Area Tourism Awards, and pre-COVID, that was an event that would actually have a banquet, but it also recognized some of the key people in the hospitality industry. It might be a server, it might be a retail worker, a hotel worker. You think about it, where nothing against you, Johnny, you're a good friend. People come to Nebraska, they don't know you, but it's that waitress or waiter, the retail staff, housekeeping, if they're on top, the rooms are clean. Those are the things that make a difference to the travelers.
Yeah. You'd have to say a lot worse than that for me not to like you.
That's good to know.
But part of this Travel Tourism Week, and communities do it and we do it too, because we're well aware of this too, is that we have Frontline Workers Awards, and we send out for people to nominate. So this week, some of our staff, I gave one out in Norfolk yesterday. Our staff's been running around here in this area and a little further north and things. And when you read, this is the cool part. They get the people who were nominated, and we select them, and they get the person to this event somehow, which is pretty easy. National Tourism Week, you're in tourism, come on, you're at the thing. And what I do, and I think our staff does too, is they read to the person why they were nominated, and there's tears, and not only from the person, from people standing there, me included sometimes, because they understand that role is to, those people who come here spend their hard-earned money and their paid time off to come here, and this person helps them have the best experience possible, and they're recognized for that. And this is a grassroots industry. I understand that. Like I always tease, I said, our job is just to get the people here. We really focus on getting out-of-state people here. And I always tease, I said, then you guys fight over them.
Yeah, you figure it out. One quick question, and then we're going to talk about Wisconsin a little bit more. I think during COVID, it seemed like people maybe were rediscovering the road trip. And do you think in this current economic environment, you're seeing that? I know it seems like airlines are struggling. Frankly, there's a fear. I think personally flying safe, but costs are going up. So do you, are you seeing any trends about the road trips?
Yeah, the road trip coming out of the even during the pandemic, people didn't travel as much, but they took road trips with people they knew and who they were around all the time. And I think that's still continuing. There are some things that happened that trended out of the pandemic that are still happening. And I think one is the road trip. And whatever's happening now in our culture and things, I think people do look at driving. And this is just a personal example. My sister's daughter's graduating from school out in Colorado, and they're busy, and they're driving, I'll see them Thursday as they come through. Never have done that. And I've been here 8 years, and they've lived in Madison for, whatever. And so, anecdotally, sure. And I think that the everybody has to be in a hurry. Our society, our culture is so fast-paced that I don't really think that you can, if you pick a place to go, I think the best way to do it is drive, because you'll have the ability to take your time and, like I said before, peel back that onion and really find out what's there rather than fly somewhere, get a guided tour, or go to Disney and all this kind of stuff. The authenticity is here,
When my kids were younger, we would do road trips.
Yeah.
Just for the fact that you're heading down the highway, you see the sign, dinosaur something or whatever unique thing.
Yep.
It's like, Dad, can we stop?
Yep.
You can do that versus flying over it. So,
Yep.
I think, quality family time when I was growing up, it was in the old station wagon, but it's like the...
Did you have the station wagon have the seat that faced backwards? My family had one of those,
Did you get that seat? No.
Yeah, I didn't mind it back there. My sister couldn't sit back there. She got car sick going backwards. I have no idea.
But let's go back to Wisconsin.
All right.
You've got a shirt on that, the baseball world lost an icon earlier this year, Bob Uecker, who was notorious for advertising. But you had the opportunity to work with Bob during your agency work with the state of Wisconsin. Yeah. What was that experience like?
Crazy fun. It's interesting that in the ad business, and this isn't always true, this is just my experience, everybody, that using celebrities was always, like the owner, the partners in our ad agency used to say, is that, go get a celebrity if you got nothing real to say. But Bob Uecker was something different than that. This was back in 90, 91, 2, somewhere in there. And, other than being on the Carson show a zillion times, and other than he had his TV show Belvedere, we had a tie to him. We got to him, and he's from Milwaukee, or he was from Milwaukee. And we got together with our tourism client, and they reached out to him, and we worked with him for about 3 years, 3 years, and he did a lot of work with us. The thing that always, with some comedians or people like that, somebody could say, hey, tell me about a whatever joke. You can't tell Uecker jokes because they were so spontaneous and from baseball analogy.
Nothing staged.
Out of left field. Yeah, that's true. It was just him, and really a good guy. He talk about authentic. He was the real dude. We'd do stuff with him and he'd say, he was always very friendly. He was always really wonderful. We never paid him directly any money. He always, whatever we had to pay him for, he was talent in our commercials. He always contributed to one of his charitable organizations. So he never took a buck. And he did a few TV commercials with us, but what mostly we dealt with him on is we did a lot of events radio. So in other words, every 2 weeks we do an events radio campaign and we'd feature the events upcoming and things. So we did a lot of work with him on radio.
We're going to take a minute to take a look at one of those commercials. I'm glad that you were able to provide these. So, Grant?
Understand, everybody, these were peeled off of a VHS tape and digitized. And the other thing you'll notice is that you're going to see, this is before the intergalactic global internet web thing.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So, Grant?
Even with all that's happening here in Wisconsin this summer, a superstar like me never has trouble deciding what to do. I get plenty of advice from my adoring public.
Take a hike.
Don't jump in the lake. See, there's 2 great ideas right there. Of course, not everyone can be this popular. So if I were you, I'd call 1-800-432-TRIP for a free Wisconsin guidebook. Hey, you're among friends.
Hit the road.
Good suggestion.
So yeah, I mean, he, for us, that was a pretty big production. And he was a pro. he was an actor. He'd done the Belvedere thing. So you didn't have to show him the script too many times. And when you have a shoot like this, they're not inexpensive. So you always want to get a couple extras in the can. So I don't know if it was this one. We have another commercial to show. But one of them, the director said, can we just run it through one more time, Bob? And he goes, no, it's in there.
He knew
You're good.
He knew what was good.
Yeah,
so,
good afternoon.
Well, do you want to take a look at the next one?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Hey, baby.
My friends have found the ultimate way to enjoy a beautiful summer day here in Wisconsin. They're going to spend it on my boat. If you're looking for the ultimate bon voyage this summer, call 1-800-432-TRIP for your free Wisconsin guidebook and spend some time with your friends. If you can catch them.
Today, like I was mentioning before, people shop and they go on to, the way we kind of get to monitor that is that people will go to your website. There weren't any websites back then. So they were all 800 numbers, and you use a call center and things, and it was a lot less sophisticated back then. We had kind of an idea of the impact, the dollars and everything, but we did know that when we'd run these commercials, and some of them weren't live call, we had so many calls that would get handled by a live person that there were other boxes just, can't get to you right now, but leave your name and address and we'll send you a guide tomorrow because that's what we promise we do. They filled up every night for the whole campaign. So everybody liked Bob. And he worked really well. He was hilarious. You're going to show the last one? We got one more, right?
We do have one more.
Yeah, there's a story behind this one.
Your assignment class is what I did on my summer vacation.
Ha! I went to Wisconsin. I was king of the road. The big fish. Top dog. Heck, I horsed around.
Robert, you're not writing.
For your free Wisconsin travel kit, call 1-800-432-TRIP.
So, that one was the last one we did with him, and we actually used him so much for radio that I don't think we were imposing on. He would have told us if we were imposing on him, but we used him a lot. And he said, I'll do one more spot. I'll do one more TV commercial with you, but I want my granddaughter in it. So the fun part about this is the little girl who looks up on him, who he's copying from, that's his granddaughter.
His granddaughter.
I have never met her, but that day she's probably in her 40s now, or I have no idea. But he loved it because we got her in there. Another thing that we'll show you in a second is we knew him pretty well then, and he would do goofy stuff. So we thought, if we could get him to wear something really crazy, and one of our creative directors thought, how about a little Lord Fauntleroy suit? So do you have that to punch up? So, Bob Uecker's sitting over to the left there.
That is not Bob.
No, that is not Bob. This was what I was telling you before. For some reason, he always was one step ahead of you. So we told him about this, and a little Lord Fauntleroy, and he says, it would help me out a lot if you would, I'm busy getting made. I said, go try that on for me so I can see what it looks like. Then we can decide. So I went and put it on and came out prancing like you just saw, and there was no way in the world that he ever was going to wear that, but it was hilarious. Because he knew exactly what he was doing. He just set me up so he could say things I can't say right now. But he was joking. He was always fun. And when we left this shoot, we were walking out. It was a little school in the kind of central east side of Milwaukee. And he says, this has been really fun. Because he knew we were not going to use them anymore and stuff. And, things change. And he said, all I really like to do is fish and broadcast Brewers baseball. And I'm going to be doing that as long as I can. And I think that, what was his count? 50 years he did that? It was right up in there. So when he passed last August, they had this spring was the first opening day that he hadn't been there. And it was cool. It was emotional. And place was packed. They actually lawn mowed his signature into the outfield, which is really cool. And the family you have to talk to Major League Baseball and so they could sell it in the stores, but that's where my Uecker shirt came from. And all of this money also went to all of his foundations, which is tremendous. So yeah, you run into a lot of different things, well, in the ad business, but in the tourism business. And Bob Uecker was one of the highlights because he was just fun.
I think he was such an iconic personality. I mean, it's, pro sports are very, very competitive. Yeah. But there was a guy who was truly beloved by everyone.
Absolutely.
And, seeing the commercials, that kind of is his persona, did not take himself too serious, but had fun. And did a good job.
He was a legit Major League Baseball player. He was a catcher for the Cardinals, and he took self-deprecating humor to a level that has never been or never will be reached. And if you want some fun, I think the Brewers are still they're going to post something from him every week or every day or some doggone thing until they win a World Series, which might be long, but they got a lot of content. But if you want something fun, just go to YouTube and watch some of the things when he was on Johnny Carson.
Oh, yes.
Because I think they said he was on over 100 times, and I've watched several, many, and it's like you couldn't get Johnny Carson to laugh off. I mean, he was fun, but this guy broke him up. Bob Uecker broke up Johnny Carson all the time, and it was hilarious. So, yeah, that was one of the real fun times we had. He was beloved in Wisconsin. They had a moment of silence for him, and boy, you should have seen I could do it now. People choke up because he was it. He's still it.
Meant a lot to the franchise, meant
absolutely.
a lot to the state. Again, just one of a kind. And, I think part of the reason I'm breaking Johnny Carson up, I think Johnny had heard a lot of the comedians, the same shtick. They did it night after night in different clubs, so Johnny knew what was coming. With Uecker, he had no clue.
Yeah. and I can't imagine being in a locker room with him.
Oh, geez.
Or how can you? But it was wonderful. It was a wonderful thing, and thanks for allowing me to share that. Well, you asked for that. You said, Uecker, do you have some stuff? And I said, yeah, so I brought it.
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate it because when we talked in February in Lincoln, I had not seen the commercials yet, but definitely, as a baseball fan, enjoyed the Uecker tribute that you had sent me from Milwaukee, and. I think even a lot of the clubs on the road that, the Brewers are going to play, a lot of them are also honoring Uecker.
Yeah.
And again, what a beloved figure. You don't see that a lot because, maybe the fact he wasn't a super great player, but yet he was still a major leaguer.
Yeah, he's still superstar.
So one of a kind. So, Well, John, appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule, especially this week. Is there anything you'd like to close on about talking about tourism and Nebraska tourism in particular?
Just realize that we've come a long way, and the business is booming. I think that we're a cash-funded agency, so we'll grow. Our budget will grow as more guests we get here. I think the important thing is that to understand that we have a pretty modest budget, but I can pretty much tell you the more eyeballs we can get on people. My mentors in this business a long time ago said that people don't go to places they're not aware of, and they don't go unless they're invited. So I've always used that kind of as a guiding light. So we need to get more eyeballs. We added St. Louis into the mix this year. Our campaign started yesterday, and immediately already we can see our website traffic jumping.
Great.
So that's wonderful. It's a growing industry. We're waking a sleeping giant. Go out and enjoy. Industry people, welcome the people, welcome them back, because they'll take a good story, tell people back in their hometowns, and they'll come to Nebraska.
Yeah, within the next 10 days, I think I get a trip to North Platte and a trip to Chadron. So I'm looking forward to spending some time in western Nebraska and
Perfect.
Discovering some of those jewels. So again, thank you, and thank you all. Again, I'm Fred Huey, and this is Backroads and Byways, the chance to take a look at the individuals, events, and attractions that make the Midwest special. So thank you.